Okay. Sure. Awesome. And when she talked about those improvements, was there good energy, passion, motivation? Was it more like dread?
No, it was like passion to overall help them.
Awesome. Awesome. The great thing about that question is when somebody kind of sets a goal with somebody else and they share it, especially with their boss, they're a lot more likely to follow through on it versus if they keep that in. And when you say, it's more of an appreciative inquiry type of question, like a bigger picture type question, what's the ideal 2025 look like for you? They can get excited about that question. They've thought about that question, but that question says to the person, I care about you, I care about your goals, I care about where it is you're wanting to go, and I'm here to help you. So what I want us to start doing more and more is, okay, we know the question, but what type of emotion is the question driving in the other person? All right, who else? What other question did we ask? Bueller? What other question did we ask?
I'm sorry if you already said this while I was outside, but we were talking about the greatest challenges
Ooh.
that you're encountering today and how we can get through and around and over those.
Okay. From the questions you asked, did you learn something new about what the other person thought, what their goals were, what they were facing? What they're proud of, what they're passionate about? Because a lot of these questions kind of tie right into those kinds of things. When we sit with our people and do these listening sessions, we're just not getting the answers to the questions. We're not just getting those pieces of the puzzle. We're getting a much deeper look into their mind, into their emotion, the way their brain works, what's important to them. And it gives us a much better opportunity to understand how to motivate, how to inspire. It gives us an opportunity to understand, I think in this situation there might be a landmine there. I'm going to tuck that back, maybe take a note. So if we come across that situation, I can proactively mitigate it and not step in the landmine. So if we're truly listening holistically, we're gaining so much more information about the person we're talking to than just the answers to the questions. Okay? And depending on how we show up, how engaged we are, our body language, minimal encouragers, tell me more, nodding our head, leaning in, not sitting back with our legs crossed, they see you are genuinely interested in what they have to say. And we mark off those 7 things every person needs. Any questions related to that? Any additional thoughts? Is it the fact we've been able to work through this, does it make you more comfortable? Because it's one thing to be like, oh, that looks easy. It's another thing like to do it and to practice it and to be ready to show up for our people when it comes to that initial meeting or email or the conversation itself. So 3 critical components: the welcome, the thank you, the expectations, questions, active listening, resisting the urge or temptation to share your own opinion, idea, to correct something, closing, the thank you, and the expectation of, when do we think we'll have this team meeting? So we've set that expectation. Another question, and it's not in here, but as you look at page 4 in your handout, you'll see there's the main question, and then there's additional layers to the question. On a scale of 1 to 5, how satisfied are you with your current role? They give the answer. What could we do to help make your job easier, more productive? How could we take your 4 to a 5, your 2 to a 3, your 3 to a 4? So you have your main question, but then you want to peel back the layers of it. Sometimes a really powerful question, and it's so easy, is tell me about that, or tell me more about that. And the awesome thing about that question is you can continue to use it. If you're wanting to hear more, and you're wanting to go deeper, tell me more. Tell me more about that. Tell me about that. It's a real easy question to have in our arsenal that we can use quite often, really, to get more depth. All right. So I didn't get to everybody over the break. We're prepping for a scenario thing that we're going to do probably during the 2 o'clock hour. It might be during the 3 o'clock hour. And I said that out loud because I wanted you to know, like, is this coming in 5 minutes? Is this going to be in an hour? So we will do that to understand direct reports and to kind of get agreement on what it is you want to do, and then identify, hey, who does this not apply to right now? Does that make sense? And then anything that you've got questions on or further feedback on, reach out to me via email. I will get back to you within a day or so, and we'll work together on that to make sure you're comfortable and in the right direction. So your assignment is going to be to conduct these one-on-one listening sessions with every direct report on your team. Begin the process. We'll figure out who that is. That doesn't make any sense. Schedule your listening sessions. Compile the list of themes, the team meeting. And I would see the team meeting really being probably after Workshop 6, but we can send something out and communicate. Because with the holidays and everything and time off, I would anticipate if you've got 5 to 7 of these to do, you'll still be doing them into the new year. I think we get together fairly early in January, do we?
January 15th.
15th? Okay, so we'll kind of see where we're at. All right. Let's transition. So now, before we get into caring conversations and dive deep there, we felt a little remiss not to have a conversation about email and email communication. It really is a dominant form of communication for a lot of people in this room and in departments. And so I want you to think deeper as we talk about this and have a lot of dialogue on this, not just from how you handle email, how you send email, how you organize email, who you CC, what's appropriate to use email for or not for yourself. You set the standard for your team. So I want you to think about this, both how could some of this stuff and what this room comes up with and discusses help you, but how can we set that expectation with the team? Because I think we touch every person in our organization through this room. We touch every person in this organization through this room. And if there's issues that we're having and ways we can communicate better, and everybody is on the same page, think about the improvement we can have across the whole organization. And some of it, as I hear, needs improved, and some of it doesn't. Some of it's going just fine. All right. Oops. So, who is the very best email communicator that you know?
The best communicator is the one that sends the most.
We'll talk about them in a minute. Maybe they're the same person. But I want you to think about who is the best, and we won't use any names with who some of the worst are, but we'll get to that. Who is the best email communicator you know?
We were joking around last night that Joe Anderson's great because when he's done communicating, he makes Billy do it. So,
Oh.
yeah.
Don't send emails.
Joe did tell me he was not able to find an email of longer than 2 paragraphs.
Because he makes Billy do it.
Because he makes Billy do it. So, Joe, who else? They don't have to be in this room. They can be in this room. Who's the best you know at email communication? Who? Colby? Okay. So what is it about Colby's communication and his emails that makes him the best email communicator? Her. Okay, sorry.
Because she just gets to the specifics.
Gets to the point. What was the other thing?
Puts the pressure on you when she sends an email.
Oh. So if she's putting the pressure on you, that must mean that what she's sending is relevant. She's sending it to the right people. It's organized in a way that you can consume it. What else about her email style and the way she communicates? Follow up? Ooh. Makes you answer. Okay? She's kind of sounding like a wife. Puts pressure, makes you answer, or a husband, right? Depending. Saw Christy shaking her head. I felt like I was going to get beat up in about 30 seconds, so I better shift that. What else?
Bullet points, I like bullet points, like so you know what, short, quick bullet points. Yeah.
Scannable.
Short, scannable. What is that?
The at with the person's name, so you, and then
Ooh.
it shows up in the inbox. You know that you have a specific follow-up in an email.
So if you read the first sentence and the last thing I did, and you can see your name in the middle.
Okay. Unaware of that feature.
That one's got me.
This is why I called Jeff.
This is why I call.
She was listening.
She was listening. We've been working on that. What else? So, and not just Colby.
I like when you know what your expectation is from the email.
Mm.
Because you're left wondering, like, is it going to be fun, or what the expectation is, like,
Clear expectation. Timeline. Okay. What else goes into this? That is really bright.
I think some of the better emails that I read are thoughtful in the people that it's directed to, so that it's written in a way that understanding.
Okay.
Yeah, the clarity, the person drafting the email could have one conceptual idea of what they're trying to get across, and making sure that the recipient understands what they're trying to portray as well.
So thoughtful, clarity, know your audience. Is there something more to capture on that?
No.
I think the balance there is sometimes that makes the email long sometimes, make it thoughtful, and so that's usually the balance that we find, like, makes it super long, we always know where they stand, kind of thing, so.
Okay.
Are the right people on the email?
Ooh, okay.
Everybody that needs to be included.
And those who don't need to be included.
How many people get 20 to 30 emails a day that they should not be included on? So, from the same person.
And we're the only recipient.
That's great. That's great. So you look at the hands go up, and I want you to think about, seriously, as we come out of this, an action item is going to be, what can we do within our departments, within our span of control, to clean some of this stuff up? Just imagine if all those hands that went up, you got to clear out 20 to 30 emails a day you shouldn't even be included on. How much time is that going to save you? I don't know about you guys, I've got over 1,000 emails unread in my city email. And I kind of scan, and it's to the point where I'll go back and delete a lot of it. But it's just overwhelming. Some of it's spam. But every now and then I'll go back when I'm deleting it and have to apologize to somebody for not getting back to them. But we'll talk about also setting expectations with how we communicate with our teams, whether it's above us, below us, at the same level, because that's important as well. What else?
Your subject lines,
Okay, what about them?
like using like key terms that make you feel like urgent, for example, just kind of being quicker or kind of preparing you for what's within the email.
Absolutely. The subject line is big. Because if you're a person like me who's got 1,000 unread emails, the subject line, and sometimes who it's from, is how I'm deciding if I'm going to open it. Does anybody use the technique where they put their name and then might hyphen it and then in a short thing, like the action item or the clarity of the email?
Address the different people within the email?
Well, like, so for example, the email that I sent out to the group, you do not get emails from me. You might get 1 or 2 from me so far. So the fact that I put Danny Langloss in the header with the action, and you know that you're coming here this week, I would venture that most people open that email. They saw that, this is important for next week. It's a really good way to capture attention depending on what it is. You know, depending on who you're communicating with, whether it's internal, external. What else? Anything else we want to add for now? Again, I want you to think, and there'll be some stuff in the handout, but take notes on things that are more important to you. I like the idea, like make sure the right people are on it, but let's not just copy everybody. Let's be more thoughtful about who we're copying on this here. Okay. So I'll take that back because you don't have it memorized. When is it appropriate to use email? Actually, let's start with when's it not appropriate to use email? When you're next to the person? Okay. I'm not going to write that down, but you can tuck it in the back of your head if you'd like.
Complex issues.
Complex issues?
Like personal things, like solicit emotions.
So we're talking about potential negative emotions?
Yeah.
Back and forth multiple times. Somebody does not understand something.
How many times is too many back and forth?
Mine's the rule of 3. Go
Okay.
back and forth 3 times. Pick up the phone.
Like it?
Not that I follow it all the time, but that's
I saw a couple people getting ready to call you out, actually.
Yeah.
They're like, when else is it not appropriate to use email? You're driving. When you're driving. Urgent? Okay.
Sensitive or strategic sometimes, so a lot of times I'll put something in writing.
Okay. This is something big within government because there's this thing called FOIA. And so if I send an email to our staff member, that is FOIA-able and anybody can get and read it. If I send an email to now if I send something to our attorney, I'm good. So for those of you who are like, I'm surprised you shared these emails as examples from the city. Well, you could FOIA them and get them. And there's nothing confidential or sensitive. All right. What else should we not use email for?
Same is true in our company.
Is it?
Yeah.
Somebody could, well, I guess you could be in,
Kurt can go and grab anybody's emails.
who can?
Kurt, or IT.
Okay.
Head of IT, for HR, legal, whatever reason.
It's true, right? It's a little different consideration. Not a citizen off the street can't ask for it unless there's a subpoena. But yeah, somebody can go grab it from another department. Right, so let's write down unprofessional. You respond to somebody talking about somebody else, gossiping, right? What else?
Single recipient, you should just pick up the phone.
Ooh, okay. Any other?
Working and I'm probably the other night working.
If I need something, you actually need to go find me or file.
I will hunt you down. All right. So what kinds of things do we feel email is most appropriate for? What type of communication do we feel email is most appropriate for? Instructions? Projects? Okay.
You need an audit trail.
Audit trail?
Recap the conversation on the phone.
Summary of that.
So I'm gonna write down processes, but kind of like with an asterisk, like, would everybody agree, if we're rolling out something new, the rollout of something new should not be done in an email? In most situations? Maybe there's an example where maybe we're updating our policy manual and it needs to go to everybody. But if we are, I'm guessing there's instruction going to the department leaders that this change is coming and there's some kind of communication that's happening. Because nobody's opening that 25-page policy and reading it. They're just signing it. What else?
Common message intended for a large group.
Common message, large group. Yeah, we're taking on voicemail next meeting. That is great. All right. Good stuff. Right. What else is email really good for?
Somebody needs a visual, attached audio.
Okay. Visual, attachments.
Something like that, yeah.
If you're hosting a meeting, an agenda, if we're doing listening sessions, emailing out the questions to everybody. So,
Summary recap followed by.
love that. Summary recap. Action items. What are we missing?
Asking questions?
To a larger group or to one person?
I think usually individuals, like information, like,
Okay.
where's this? Or, like there's information like that, information gathering.
Information gathering. Hey, I'm working on this project. This is my deadline. This is the information I'm trying to gather. We're renegotiating our city garbage contract. I emailed 20 city managers from across our region asking for their contracts and a couple of details and information. Great use of email. How long would that have taken me to do if I'd have called all of them? Right? Okay. So when we look at don't email and email, how are we doing as a company? Anybody ever got their ass chewed in an email? I have. You report to Karen, right? Tell us about that. I'm just kidding. I know she would never do that. But we see this all the time where these emails fly around back and forth and they're negative or not considerate of tone. I mean, one of our rules is like, if this could be taken the wrong way, it's not an email. Right? We don't roll out brand new initiatives and we don't spam the heck out of everybody. So let's see how we did. All right, when to use. Give positive feedback. Everybody like that? I mean, we should be doing that as much as we can in person, on the phone if our teams are remote, on a Zoom. But as a follow-up to do that, or just to drop them a quick line. Document, confirm decisions or agreements. Somebody said CYA. Maybe you need CYA. It is a good way to, hey, this is what I heard. This is what I think our process and actions are. Let me know if I've got anything wrong here, if there's any misunderstanding. Non-urgent, non-critical information, that was shared. Multiple stakeholders was shared. Attaching files was shared. Details on expansive issues. Not the rollout, but information somebody is going to need. Because we can have this meeting in person, but if I share 10 different details with you, I mean, maybe somebody in here's got a photographic memory, I don't. I'm going to walk out, remembering 3 of them. And so if there's important things that people need to go back and be able to reference, that's a good reason to share it. Anything else we want to add? Because I'd ask you to do just a little audit, kind of in your mind, and look through, like, who's doing a good job meeting what you're saying on your team, or you personally, and who isn't? And how can we clean that up? How can we take some pretty straightforward information, have a team huddle, talk about it? Again, it's perfect, right? Because you can start with the pain point. Who here is overwhelmed by email? Yeah, we just were at our leadership development, and we were actually talking about email, and everybody raised their hand too. What about if we could put some new strategy, system, process in place, a new way of doing it to where we could really decrease the amount of email you're getting, the amount of time this is taking? Anybody up for that? Next thing you know, you've got buy-in from your team. Then, instead of just telling them what's appropriate or not appropriate, you do exactly what we just did here. Then you get their buy-in. People support what they create. And then you move forward. Think about all the time it'll send. All right. Time-sensitive matters, complex, sensitive topics, emotional or conflict-laden topics. Like you just had a meeting with somebody, you're not happy about what was said, and you're going to fire them an email to let them know exactly how you're feeling now that you got your thoughts together. Whoo! Building relationships. When we email, we aren't taking that time. But at times, just like with text, right? Like I love talking to Karen, but we're both busy, so if we need something, I can shoot a quick text. I know if I call her, or she knows if she calls me, how was your Thanksgiving? Are you guys getting any sleep? Those are good things, but at times we need to streamline it. Anything can be taken as negative, and then the new initiatives. All right. Anybody know somebody who loves to send a dissertation and believes that you hang on and read every word? Hey, have you had a chance to give this some thought? Yeah, I emailed you. It was in paragraph 4, sentence 3 of that 4-page email I sent you. You didn't see it? All right. Who's willing to tell on themselves? Where are my long emailers? 1, 2, 3. Anybody else? Anybody else not have a problem finding an email that was more than 2 paragraphs, as I asked you to do? Well, just so you know, if you're not being forthright, everybody in the room knows it. If they've got an email from you that looks like this. I was working with a company, and this guy was such a visionary. And he was an incredible writer. And if you had time to read his dissertations, you were moved by them. But I was doing coaching with all of his team, and nobody was reading the emails. Everybody was just complaining that they were getting them. But when I talked to him and we kind of showed him a mirror, right? Like, hey, this is one of your expectations of me. If there's an issue or there's a challenge and I bring it to your attention, he could not believe that people were not reading all this. They're not. All right. So we look at the critical components. First and foremost, we got to choose the recipients right. Does this relate to them? This is like, oh, I just thought I'd send it to you so you were in the loop. Do they have a purpose on this? Or are we just being lazy and trying to figure out what the purpose is? The subject line is big. Having a subject line that really clearly articulates why somebody should open this email is important. Otherwise, in a lot of your situations, maybe it doesn't get open or doesn't get read. Okay?
I think that's also important for searching later. So if
Ooh.
you change the topic on a conversation halfway through, you've got the old, like, you're not going to find it later.
Excellent point. So looking for things later, your opening statement, starting with why. What is the purpose of this communication? And it's fine to say, hey, I hope everything's okay if you haven't talked to somebody, but getting right away by that second sentence of what's the purpose? What about creating sections? I want everybody, so in the back of the handout, I think they're all stapled. I gave some different examples. And so here, it's just like everything else we do. Nothing I'm telling you is 100% absolutely right. That's just the way I do things. And so just like with anything that we talk about, take what you like, don't take what you don't, and toss it out. There's a lot of ways to do things right. But with our city council, I would never send them something like this without having first had communication with them. But then because of the complexity of the issues and the amount of information they need to have at their fingertips, then I'll send this. Overlook Gardens, immediate attention required. In addition to sending the email, there's a group text where I text them, Mayor and Council, I just sent a time-sensitive message to your email. Okay? In this case, we had a whole bunch of angry people that were going to be coming to a city council meeting, and I needed the council to have all this information and the context on top of the fact that they knew that people were angry and they were upset. Okay? So when you look at this, one of the things I like to do is I'll bold or italicize or maybe underline so it jumps out. I'll just read, and I've done it so much now it doesn't take a lot of time. But what do I really, if they only read certain things, what is it that I want them to read? Somebody talked about the bullet point method. You know, there's a highlight feature that you could use, right? So you got Overlook Gardens as the first example. Health insurance update. So after we met with department leaders, after we met with the health insurance committee, we decided on the change. After they had had a chance to communicate the change to their teams, this went out to the entire city to document that. Health insurance update, no change to coverage. Because what's the one thing, going to be the same doctors? What's going to happen to my deductible? How many times can I go to the chiropractor? Like whatever it is. And then highlighting those important things, separating these things out, what it means, start with why. But the feedback that we've gotten in other places where, because I didn't come up with this, I saw somebody else do it, right? It's where most things come from. People love the ease of being, if you got to send that long email, right? If you got to send that long email, how can we break that up and draw attention to the important things and aspects? And how much quicker can you work through something that's important or have it? How much time does that save the recipient? Because once you start doing this, it doesn't take a whole lot of time for the sender. It just doesn't. And then the last example, and just provided 3 on different things, was we just purchased 65 acres of land for new development. Obviously, we'd had the conversations with the council, we had their support, but there were things they needed to know and understand how the meeting was going to flow, right? So they've got all the pieces, they can look at it. When somebody asks, you know, isn't 1.5 million a lot of money for this? No, actually, it's half the cost of the list price. This is what these other areas have gone for, so they have that information at their fingertips. And they can pull that up anytime, and as Karen said, the searchability of full 65 acres, if somebody needs to go find it, it's important. All right. Questions, comments, thoughts? Anything additional from you guys on don't send email in this situation, this is appropriate use, anything like that? How many people were able to find an email that was longer than 2 paragraphs long? I mean, all of us, right? Like I can find some can't. So you're gonna get a little bit of a break. But if you have that, kind of look at it, review it, and think about how you can restructure it. And for the purpose of this, if you printed it or if it's in your phone, you can mess with it. And if it doesn't work, if you don't have good enough access to it, we don't have to do the activity. But I just thought it would be a good way to practice kind of that format, see how it looks, and just to see how much different that looks compared to how we create something more like this. Anybody else have like a system they use on, God bless you, on longer form that they want to share that works really good for them? Yes, sir?
It's not cheating, but I just started doing it like a month ago. It's ChatGPT. I write the email, so it looks like that track. And then you put it in ChatGPT and say, concise this, condense this email. And you can even count the number of, say I want this email to be X amount of words. And then, of course, you read it and you might think it's perfect, what they spit out. But, you can, of course, edit that some more as well. I found that to be very helpful.
Anybody else using ChatGPT like that? Okay.
I definitely don't use it to write the emails. I don't have that kind of trust. Maybe some people do. I'll do all the email, but then you just clean it up, tighten it up. And it's been awesome.
Does it change the tone of the email?
No, you basically just say,
email and I like to chat, I know which one is Bird wrote versus which one a computer wrote, right?
I've received
not really, no, it doesn't. And you can just say like, keep it in the same tone and.
So as long as
Yeah.
instructions to check.
Yeah, you don't have to tell it too much. And I've never even used ChatGPT until for any of that stuff until a month or so ago.
So the really cool thing with ChatGPT, how many people here are really familiar with ChatGPT? Have used it? So the really, really cool thing about it is you can short form and bullet point tell it what you're trying to do, and it will do it. You can tell it to change the tone, you can tell it to make it funny. Yeah. We had a situation, we've got a large landlord in town who's a pretty good guy. He's pretty active, pretty involved, but he had some compliance issues within his buildings. And the fire department was sick and tired of these things not being taken care of, and we're working towards a stage of finding them, writing them tickets, bringing them into our municipal court, and dealing with it that way, which is fine because we've blown through these deadlines. Well, the fire chief sends me the email and says, hey, will you take a look at this and see what you think? And I read the email, and I'm like, we will have World War III with this landlord if you send this to him. Like, we might as well go out and find him, and while he's not looking, punch him in the back of the head. That's the response we're going to get. And so I pulled up ChatGPT, told it the situation, just really quickly, dropped this in, and just asked it to communicate what we want to, with more empathy and compassion, to tone it down a little bit. And within 3 seconds, it gave me it, I read it, I copied it, I pasted it, I sent it back to the fire chief. He got back to me a little later and said, thank you so much. I knew what we needed to say. I knew this was going to cause a problem. You're great with words. And I responded, you're right. I'm amazing with words. No, I taught him about ChatGPT. But there's so many different things we can do with that technology. We've got to create an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, with our economic development group we work with. We give them $50,000 a year. Instead of paying the attorney, $250 an hour, you put in, want to create an MOU, tell it what your business is, tell it who you're working with. These are the important things it needs to contain. That took me 5 minutes to input. It spits out a 4-page MOU in under 30 seconds. The attorney reviews it, and he's like, wow, you're really good at this. And I always tell him myself, which is fine, but think about how you can leverage it, and email is a great way. All right.
I think this is kind of a side note, but it's just related to email, and it's not an issue, but it's a problem that I deal with, is just the overwhelming, we talked about amount of emails you get. But to a point now where I'm just, every day I'm like, I need to take my email box that has 18,000 emails, where probably only 50 of them are useful right now, but how do I clean them out, right? I'm not just going to go select all delete, because you can't delete email, they didn't have access to them, right? But I guess requesting what are ways to clean up your email, right? Way to delete an email. Now that we're in the archiving world and emails are going to be going away and all that, but just I think that's a huge time waster and consumer of the day of searching for emails, finding emails, whatever it is when you have to search through so many of them.
Yeah. Does anybody have a great system to where at the end of the day their email is 0? What do you do? Pardon me? Okay. Have you ever heard of the organization strategy called never touch things twice? It's a joke. I'm just playing with you. Because so do you read them though and then put them in there, or you just drag them in there?
I read them and I say, is this something I need to answer now? And if I do, I respond to it and then file it in a folder that I will refer to later or look at later. And if it's by the state, by department, then that's where they all go. And then if, like Tim said, if I don't look at them for 3 months, I'm done.
Okay. But what about if you're having trouble even getting to them to read them because you get so many emails? Does anybody have any strategy on how they've overcome that, other than working till midnight?
Well, that might go back to the original discussion that you shouldn't be on certain emails. I mean, if I'm getting, I can get through all my emails. One problem is I'm probably spending too much time reading emails I should be part of.
Yeah.
I think one part I have too is being included, copied on so many of them that, there's always that thought of, well, I don't want to delete it yet because I know it's still an open project or an open topic, so I don't want to delete it from my inbox, right? But then that just carries on.
Well, I do something similar to what you do after I've got it read. If this is something I'm going to need, I've got everything categorized, so I can go to false land purchase, I can go to garbage contract, right? Anything I've had the city attorney, you're probably doing that already as well, but dragging it out of there. So I think there's a couple things. One, if we proactively kind of take this on as a team, and we are deciding what should we email about, what shouldn't we email about, being more cautious and who gets CC'd. If as leaders, we proactively communicate the expectation, because everybody's overwhelmed by email, so people are going to be welcome to this conversation. It's not a you're screwing up or whatever, how do we do this better? I think that's the first way. The second thing, and I don't have somebody that can just go through it, I wish I did and had more time, but another big thing, we get so much spam that if we can take the time at some point, God bless you, to go in and unsubscribe, it's amazing how many fewer emails are going to come.
You're going to see that benefit when you come into our environment. All the promotional emails get sent to a separate folder, and it does help a lot. A couple things. I'm going to publicly commit, Marco and I, to this take back your life type of training that we've talked about in the past. So Microsoft Outlook has training, and literally, I've been through it. By the end of the training, you are down to 0 emails in your inbox, and they teach you strategies on how to literally stay at 0. So there are methods to the madness. I don't know, they're hard to sustain, like it's hard to build new habits in Outlook, right? So I think it's hard to sustain, but it is something we can commit to do it. The budget will allow. That'll be the end of every sentence moving forward. The other thing I will say is, has anyone worked in an organization where Slack or other types of chat functions have been heavily used? So that is the only place that I have heard that in those types of environments where they are heavily used, the conversation happens by topic, by team. It's very well organized. Everything comes off of email, and the only thing that happens with email is external communications outside the organization. And I think those teams have been successful in literally getting to that 0 email in the inbox. When you go to the chat, you can, look back in the conversation, scroll back, and so we talked about it on the HR team. We do it in certain topics, but I don't know that we've moved out of email.
But it has helped alleviate.
Yeah, if there's anyone in this room who wants to try to help us with this as an organization, I think that there are, I've seen pretty amazing results.
Our
Teams
team
do
in
it.
Vegas, they took off the Teams chat,
Uh-huh.
and it's been phenomenal for them. They use it constantly.
Yeah, the service.
The downside to it too is it turns into kind of like instant messaging, so now you got people at 10:30 PM that's on PTO, because it's just right there, and they start working all the time, but that instant communication and building up your emails, it's been huge for them.
We use team chats for all of our systems installations across the state. And everyone is included, we have the 8 offices, everyone's all included, and they remove themselves from the conversation. It's not in their system.
I think the big thing is if you're going to change systems and how you do things, getting real clear on the expectations so that just doesn't replace the nightmare that email was.
And you have to enforce it too. I mean, that's
You do.
one thing with Teams is it's a great feature, but if you only use it once, and then you forget about it, you get logged out, or you don't use it, it didn't work. Operations, they enforce it. This is the only way you can communicate these type of
Yeah,
issues. So,
Changing behavior is hard.
Yeah.
Will be hard.
yeah.
so hard. Like I do great for a little bit. I do time blocking, and so okay, I'll check my email in the morning. I'll check it before lunch. I'll check it before I leave instead of getting drawn into it or just not looking at it at all on certain days. But it's tough. It's overwhelming. The one thing that I've done with our team and with the council is just set the expectation. Things are so busy. Some days are just complete sprints. And so if you send me something that you need a response on, or you send me something that's important for me to see, even if it's not urgent, just please shoot me a text. Otherwise, just call me or text me. Because it just becomes too much. And once we've communicated that up front, it flows pretty smooth. And ask them, say, how would you like to be communicated with? Right? So we can communicate with them on their median if they're going to send something to us. So that way things don't get mixed in the shuffle. And then we know it's there. Okay. So give some thought, and I don't know, maybe in the peer pods discussion, because you really, if we reset the expectations on how we're doing this, I know this isn't the most exciting segment or thing to talk about, but it'll be an investment to save you an incredible amount of time. So much time. All right. We're going to forgo the activity because some people have the email, some people don't. I would say that if you have these longer form emails, check out the examples, do one of them. If you want, I want to do this just for myself, send it to me, right? The other thing I think you could do is drop this into ChatGPT and tell it what you want it to end up looking like, and it'll do it for you immediately. I haven't tried it. I'm positive it will. So, they'll say, okay, we're going to take, we'll come back at 2:20. It's after lunch. And then we're going to jump into carrying conversations. All right?